Welcome to Electricity Hooray, the live stream that celebrates the arrival of electricity to my house. That's right, I currently have electricity. I've been without electricity for a while now, and I can tell you that living a life of no electricity, it's fun for like 6 hours. You think, oh, this is like Little House on the Prairie. But that's just the lack of electricity that's been a bit of a frustration. Yeah, because like we don't have any electricity, but now we do. But we didn't for a while. But we're also completely snowed in. So hibernally, life is fine and dandy. About as fine and dandy as it could get. Now that we have electricity again. But we're still stuck here at this house because, well, now we're not entirely stuck. Cameron's here today. Cameron arrived today with a generator and a snowblower. We had to work really hard to shovel and snowblow him a parking space. And then as we're moving the generator down to the garage, of course, the electricity comes back on. Which is, I'm happy about because neither of us wanted to mess with the generator and making sure it all works properly and everything. By the time we were done shoveling and all that shit, I was exhausted. He was too. And he had driven all day as well. But tomorrow and Sunday, it's supposed to have more weather. Now, fingers crossed we get rain instead of snow. Because a nice heavy rain would do a world of good in terms of washing away this extreme piles of snow problem that we have. And the last time it snowed, which was not today, not yesterday, but the day before, that night it snowed harder than any of the other times it has snowed. We got like 2 feet of fresh powder in one night. And that caused a tree in our front yard to break in half and fall across the power lines. Well, normally this time of year, if it rains where we are, it'd be snow most of the time. But we're not that high up. We're at 4,000 feet. So, like tomorrow and Sunday, both the days, the weather's supposed to be during the day, and it's unusually warm right now. Like it's 42, and it's 11 o'clock at night. That's surprisingly warm. I can still hear the water dripping from the icicles outside the bedroom window. I was going to try to go to sleep already, but I just couldn't fall asleep. Like, coming out here, I just need this one jacket on. It's not that cold. So it seems like the storm coming in, you see the snow all over everything. Just massive amounts of snow all over everything. This is my driveway right here. It's just 4 feet of snow. We got at least 5 feet, but it compacts over time. Compacts down. Loses some of its fluffiness. No, I mean, normally for this place, Jersey Dale, where we're at, they do get snow every winter, but it's not very much. maybe at most a storm will drop a foot of snow, you know. This, everybody says, is historic. This is the most snow that this place has ever gotten, you know. So, of course, Rachel and I move in a month before that happens. Is it Jock Anime? Is that who's back again? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? So I decided to live stream just primarily because I feel so like disconnected after being without internet for such a long time. I had this big adventure where I went to the Triangle Road Market. After I had quit smoking for like 4 or 5 days, I had no cigarettes at all. I decided I don't want to quit smoking. And then I went out of here, walked down the hill, got to the road, got picked up hitchhiking by a snowplow, and it was quite an adventure because it's, you know, like 5 miles, 6, maybe 10 miles away where I was going to, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna how much of it I was gonna have to hike. Turns out it was super easy for me to get a ride because it's like an emergency. It's like it's a state of emergency around here. There were so many down power lines around just this Snyder Ridge Road, Snyder Creek, and Heights Cove down there. It was ridiculous. But we got really lucky in that we didn't sustain any significant damage. Other people not so lucky necessarily, you know. We did have half of a tree break off and fall. Part of it fell into our driveway, but the rest of it fell on the power lines. So anyway, camera got here today. After yesterday, Rich and I were just like, we've had enough of this. We're stuck in the house. We can't go anywhere. I can't even go into my backyard. There's so much snow. And we've got how old am I? I'm 51. Soon to be 52. It's not rude at all. I don't mind you asking me that at all. Maybe it's rude to ask women that. I don't think it's rude to ask men that. Rachel's 38. Now soon to be, not seen, soon to be 52. In late April is my birthday. I may also seem to be 52, but I wouldn't really be the one to be able to determine that, I guess. You only get snow in March. It's been snowing over here in Vegas too. Weird. As soon as it hits the ground, it melts. We don't get any of the fun. Well, you know, it was fun for a bit. It was fun for a while, but it's like when you can't get your car out of the driveway and the only connectivity you have to the world is a corded landline. And the only food you have to eat are things that are canned or dried food. Pasta, rice, Chef Boyardee, soup. That's it. We were like that for a better part of a week, you definitely start to get some cabin fever, you know. I'm like dying to go out to dinner and have some regular food. And I've been eating so much pasta. Well, what I call spaghetti and marinara sauce is wheat and tomatoes. How does it work in regards to work there? Do people still get paid if they literally can't get to work? Um, well, I'm not sure, but it probably depends on their jobs, you know. But I did encounter in Oakhurst at the pharmacy before the big storm hit, a lady in front of us in line was saying that she was probably going to be stuck at work for a week because she wasn't going to be able to get back to her house. What in your childhood do you think caused your interest in MBTI, and how do you think it affects your daily life today? Nothing in my childhood caused my interest in MBTI at all. I didn't even learn about MBTI. Somehow I sort of missed it until I was like in my early 30s. And and then I just learned about MBTI, and there wasn't anything on the internet at the time about cognitive functions. And so I just thought, well, that's kind of interesting. There seems to be a lot of intuitive resonance to this, but there's nothing you can do with it really, you know. Then maybe 10 or 12 years later, or about 10 years later, you know, I learned about cognitive functions and started researching that. And the reason I got so interested in it is because it turned out to be, shockingly, to my abundant surprise, the actual metaframe that explains everything. It explains everything. I mean, the thing is, all of human history comprises individuals saying, the problem is you need to be more like me. That's really what, like, everybody from cult leaders to philosophers to politicians to anybody who's speaking publicly and advising the world about the world, it comprises simply, in almost every single instance, I'm projecting my frame of reference as a norm that you should affirm and uphold. And of course, that's completely nonsense. You know, you can talk about some of the smartest people in history, like Kant, right? What was he doing? He's projecting his frame of reference. He's saying, um, we can and should understand morality through this very parsed black and white frame of reference. Now, it doesn't mean he didn't do brilliant work. It just means the problem with what everybody's always been saying is it doesn't start with, here's why I'm prioritizing this and not something else. It doesn't acknowledge that before any meaningful analysis of any sort can be done, you've got to have a correct map of human attention. You got to have a correct map of yourself, you know. Now, for non-mapping types, that map is of limited value a lot of times. They're not able to get as much from learning about cognitive functions as I am or Rachel is, because we're maximally mapping types. But it's, how does it affect my daily life? Well, it affected it today. I was having a conversation with Rachel, and yeah, well, once you start to understand it correctly, it becomes this incredibly powerful frame of reference. Because I was talking with Rachel today, like I said, about my dad and how he used to have what you might call resting bitch face a lot. And Rachel and I could never read his facial expressions and conclude from that anything about you know, like, he looked like he was really mad, and then you talked to him and he wasn't mad, you know. But what the analysis I did today when talking with Rachel was simply that I understand what was going on there. He was experiencing his FI feelings in general, an SI tool function, linking back to the past, feeling bad all the time because his life had grown suckier and suckier as his body broke down. He lost his wife and stuff, you know. And and we were I never understood how really, like, why is it so hard to read him? Well, really, it was very easy to read him. And I was reading his actual FI on his face, which was not about me and not about Rachel necessarily. You know, it was about us some of the time, maybe, but um, so you know, he was. It helps me to understand a lot better why he was the way he was, etc. Because it's foreign to me, that kind of FI, that um, like that persistent bad feeling thing. It's I mean, it's my blind spot to understand FI stuff. What are your thoughts on mental health disorders such as narcissism, bipolar, borderline, etc. in regards to MBTI? Do you think certain mental health disorders could be a phenomenon of unhealthy type? Uh, okay, well, so those three things you listed there are all very different from each other. Narcissism, I suspect, links to abuse, but I'm not sure. Bipolar links is not does not link to abuse at all. Rachel has bipolar mania, but with the right combination of drugs, she's perfectly treated for it. You know, it's in remission. So, is an NI type more likely to be bipolar or have bipolar mania or something like that? Maybe, because NI DOMs have trouble sleeping. But but borderline personality disorder, that definitely always is a product of childhood abuse. And different types may express borderline personality disorder in some different ways that are somewhat different from each other, but basically the rule of it is the same. I hate you, don't leave me, is how it plays out. And the actuality of it is those people, during the time of their life when they were imprinting basic operating procedures, they were had imprinted on them deeply that they could not trust anybody, especially the ones they most needed to trust. And generally speaking, bipolar personality disorder, I mean, borderline personality disorder, people can't really get beyond it. Um, Although my friend Liz showed a remarkable amount of self awareness and growth last time I talked to her. What are your tips dealing with FI blindness as it becomes difficult in your life? I'm tired of being so indecisive, sometimes I can't even tell if I'm lying or telling the truth. It's like my emotional string is in two uncontrollable parts. A lot. One is sensitive and anxious, while the other is cold and rude. Well, I mean that's possible, Brindley. Subtypes may correlate to attentional configuration. Um, well, I don't I don't find my FI blindness creates difficulties in my life because it's my blind spot. People don't understand their polars is causing them problems. They understand their sixth slot function is causing them problems. They understand their fourth slot function is causing them problems, and sometimes their eighth slot. But they don't understand their polar is causing them problems because they're too blind to it. If you're genuinely blind to something, then you're not even aware of how your failures to it are causing you problems. It is the case that FI polar causes me problems that I can kind of have an objective workaround, but it's always to understand it as having caused those things, but it's always in retrospect. I never understand that my FI polar is causing me a problem now. I always understand, oh, that problem was probably linked to my FI polar from that already happened and is done. It's like, what are the problems that FI polar caused me? Well, it caused me to get in terrible relationships time and time again. It's gotten me in trouble in the sense where I can't exactly see when I do wrong or if I care for someone or not. I'm glad I was told I am like this because I was oblivious beforehand. Well, you can't see when you do wrong is a separate matter than you can't see if you care for someone or not. It should be easy to distinguish whether or not you do wrong. That's pretty straightforward. Yeah, whether or not you care for somebody, I mean, the way I dealt with it, that is, I just got in a relationship with some person who'd be in a relationship with me, and then just said all the right words, And it wasn't until I got with Rachel that I realized you could actually, be with the right person. Say FI is a value system, essentially. If FI comes to value, no, FI is not a value system. No, it's a deliberation function. It deliberates on an interested calculus. It tells you what you want and what you don't want, right? Just like TI is a deliberation function that calculates on a disinterested calculus. It tells you what's correct and what's not correct. So it's terribly wrong to say that FI is a value system. The valuings that go on with cognitive functions depend on your slot placement. So your dominant function is an absolute value, your third slot function is an absolute value, your fifth slot function is an absolute value, and your polar is an absolute value that barely plays any role, And your second, fourth, sixth, and eighth are instrumental values. What you prioritize as a value is continued on your stack. That's how valuing is determined. Determining what status is the job of deliberation functions. So FI determines the status of whether it's something you want and genuinely find very important or whether it's something you don't really care about very much. It's about your own interests, and it's really the most sensible deliberation function to have for regular life dealings with things, because if you're an ISTJ like Cameron, he's got SI and FI as two absolute values. He has a great deal of clarity about what he wants to do, what he doesn't like, what he knows and is comfortable with epistemologically from experience, and it's a very practical, concrete kind of valuing setup, whereas mine is incredibly impractical and non-concrete. I value extroverted intuition and extroverted feeling. In other words, I value talking and having people listen to me and think I'm smart or funny. Funny is my favorite. If people think I'm funny, That's my favorite flavor of FE. People think I'm smart is like, it's like defense FE. It's like, well, I may be a dick or I may be arrogant or whatever, but at least you have to respect the fact that I'm smart or something like that, you know? But, you know, our most beautiful and precious absolute value is really our fifth slot function. I love NI so much. I love snappy titles. I love the concision and clarity and pure communication fortitude of NI. I'm an INFP and I love ENTPs. Well, I'm glad you do. I like INFPs too. I don't have many of them in my life, but I respect them. You know, like Dallas. Dallas is one of my favorite INFPs, and I respect him a lot. You have an abundance of them, huh? Well, not a whole lot of stuff getting done there, huh? I guess it's better than an abundance of INTPs. An abundance of INTPs should be called something like a flop house. This should be the group name of INTPs. A flop house of INTPs. They were just lying around, looking on the internet. I like how there are lots of different group names for different kinds of things, you know? Like a murder of crows, a congress of monkeys, a flop house of INTPs. Or just a flopping of INTPs. And you call a group of INFPs a wet flopping. Because, you know, I like to refer to feelings as wet. And logic as dry. My house has an ENTP, INFP, 3 INTPs, 1 INTJ, and an ENTJ. Wow, I mean, hopefully it's the ENTJ getting his ass whipped by the NTPs. Jeffrey's partner, I've got a debater student, Jeffrey. He's got a policy partner who's an ENTJ, clearly, and who's making me want to just fucking lay into his ass. I've never met the kid, but he's going to be a senior next year, and he's trying to pull some shit with Jeffrey that I do not like at all. They've got multiple TSC bids. They're going to TSC this year. They should not be even thinking about next year. Or the partner should not be trying to force Jeffrey to get a policy can under threat of switching to LD next year, you know. Trying to leverage shit like that is wrong. A bouquet of INFPs. Okay, I like that one too. That's a little sweeter. A little sweeter sounding than mine, maybe. There's this song by Bell and Sebastian that Rachel introduced me to about a couple weeks ago. I cannot get it out of my head. I want the world to stop. I want the world to stop me. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, ding. Well, I don't find knowing Enneagram type particularly informative, uh, because to be properly informative, you've got to conscribe your understandings of Enneagram to be a taxonomy of FI, basically. So, unfortunately, people do type descriptions of of Enneagram types that encompass things like sevens are like this. Good night, darling. Love you too. Um, they say like, well, sevens are like this, and they end up describing various qualities of ENTPs, ESTPs, types that are most likely to be seven, and ascribing that to be the seven is why they're that way. The seven's not why they're that way. The seven just explains how you habitually react to fear, which basically is like looming deadlines, things like that. And like 891, it describes how you respond to anger, and 234 describes how you respond to shame. So my tri-type in Enneagram is 784, and that does tell you about how I engage in with certain situations habitually. But yeah, I am a munchkin. I'm actually very tall. I'm 6'4", and it's amazing what a few inches or a foot can do in terms of height. Because like, there's lots of times where I'll be looking at something and I go, "Hey, Rachel, look at that," and she won't be able to see it. So, it's I didn't really think a whole hell of a lot about being tall until maybe I went to China. In Shanghai, the advantages of being tall were very obvious to me, because I had to go to this train station, the main Shanghai train station, the big one where all the subways, the end of the line of all the subways, is also the beginning of all the high-speed trains. So if you go there at like rush hour, it's an absolute fucking nightmare. Just, oh God. Can you not, please? Well, in China, it's like all the people in the train station are so much shorter than me. I can see all the signs just fine. And it made me realize that these people down here, they can't see anything. So that was when I started really sort of thinking about, like, oh, I guess being tall is an advantage. I'm not really that sensory. I'm not thinking about things like that very much. And I'm not very attentive to stuff in the visual spectrum in general. It's SE 8th slot. Functions well on autopilot for things like driving and stuff, but left to my own devices, I spend a relatively small amount of uh, me getting me. I don't know what I was gonna say. Your mom's best friend is full Filipino. She looks 25. She's 43. She's 5'3". Well, Rachel's 38. She doesn't look 25, but she definitely doesn't look 38 either. Try not to blush. Okay, I'll try. There, I succeeded. Um, were you successful at not blushing, Jock Anime? Did you make that video? You made a video called Try Not to Blush. And Jimmy Blaze, did you watch that video? And were you able successfully to not blush? These are the questions I have. I am trying. And I'm continuing to be successful. I don't know what would make me blush. Some kind of embarrassment or something. The video made was shitty. That's fine. I've made plenty of shitty videos. I've made thousands of shitty videos. It's too unbelievable to even describe. Okay, now you got my curiosity piqued. Hi guys, welcome. My first video. Today we will do a try not to blush challenge. These are the rules. No skipping ahead in this video. No clicking off this video. No speeding up this video. And no blushing. Here we go. It's Rick Astley. Not even now? Wow, tough crowd. Well, goodbye. I like that video. I think it's great. I am pleased by that video. E-E-E-ah-ah-ah-O-O-O. Here's what it says in my recommended videos. After watching Jock Anime's video, it says, top recommended videos, Yellowstone's greatest kept secret, what lurks beneath. I like those what lurks beneath videos. I like to listen to those stories. And then the second recommended video is me, Electricity Hooray. Or it actually says Hurrav. I misspelled it, I guess. Then the next one is Malphalan's fleet's armor frigates Eve Online Malphalan. I have no idea what that is. I have no idea why it would be recommended to me. Then EEEAAOOO, which is a song I like a lot. So that's easy to understand why that's recommended to me. Then the Beatles, A Day in the Life. That's a song I like a lot, so it's understandable why they'd recommend that. Then Glacier Park's Night of the Grizzlies PBS documentary. That sounds kind of interesting. It might be something I might want to watch. Then Scary Reddit Stories by Let's Read. I don't like Let's Read nearly as much as What Lurks Beneath. Then The Night Before by the Beatles. Then Clarkson Official second year anniversary in YouTube grand live stream. He's got 62 people watching. Second year anniversary. I've been doing this for over a decade. I got 10 people. Then another What Lurks Beneath video. Then one of my own songs, Just Walked Away, which is a song I like a lot. Then another What Lurks Beneath video called There's Something Under Los Angeles. That one I want to watch, for sure. Then another video that says Try Not to Blush While Watching This Video by Guess It. So, okay. Well, that's that. Would you say that any would be a more strong function for INTJs or INFJs? It would depend on the situation or whether or not it's called fun. I mean, the thing is, your fifth law function is your absolute value for the rest of the world. So, both INFJs and INTJs can have very effective extroverted intuition. But like Rachel's extroverted intuition works best bouncing back and forth with me. We sometimes talk in character voices and make jokes and stuff like that. I like the expression "shush your tongue." Any makes me feel like a crackhead. Any is insatiable is kind of exhausting. Like there's never a concrete aha. Well, and any Dom with some learning, you don't know how any Dom's gonna turn out because they're an SI type, and things that we learn can powerfully impact us. I was not capable of making good music until an INFJ friend of mine explained that the parts that sound familiar, but you can't place exactly where you heard it before or anything like that. No, that's SI, Jimmy Blaze. That's SI. So an INFJ explained to me that basically I was trying to make music wrong by rejecting everything that wasn't completely original. I made nothing that was ever resonant. Yeah, SI is like that too. Well, look, I mean, SI knows from experience rather than from intuition. It's it is fallacious to it is fallacious. No, because no pattern. It's not patterns. NI is recognizing things for what they are, independent of your experience. An NI Dom doesn't need to remember things to know things. They don't need to have learned things to know things. They intuit things. And it's a way of bypassing experiential knowledge entirely. Um, like here's the difference on this one episode of Naked and Afraid I saw, which had multiple people in this one part of Africa, and one of the guys was an INFJ. The SITE people on the show tried to make various nets and whatever to catch fish, and had all these things, and kept trying. Said, well, we've just got to persist in this. We'll get one eventually. Blah 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 blah. And the INFJ guy instead walked up and down the riverbank with this really flimsy little pole that he made out of a stick, and looked for exactly where the fish were, and waited for the right moment, and would cast in and get a fish. And these other people who were doing all this work and persistence weren't catching any fish, even though he was clearly the one who had the least fishing skill of anybody. Like he didn't have a background of fish nets and meow 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 meow. When in that instance, what I'm talking about, intuition is he's observing the external world and intuiting where the right place and the right time to fish is. Whereas the SITI types, TE types, are not intuiting about the external world. They're knowing their techniques that they've learned on how to fish and applying them. So that's the difference between SI and NI. NI is an observational function that is attentive to the external world at all times. Rachel always notices things. I don't notice things. We were joking around earlier today that if a bear walked in front of our car and I was in the middle of explaining something to Rachel, I wouldn't notice it. And she'd point it out, and I'd honk the horn and say, "Get out of here, bear, I'm explaining something." And then I'd finish explaining it to her, and then I'd say, I wish I had filmed that bear. But obviously that's hyperbole. I would notice an actual bear in front of the car, I'm sure. But it is the case that when I'm talking or absorbed in my head or whatever, I'm incredibly removed from the sensory world, and I don't notice things at all. In contrast, Rachel, while she's just as intuitive, because she's NISE, she's external and future focused in a way that I'm not. It's a great complementary pairing, INFJ and ENTP, because I think we're both genuinely impressed by the other ones. And if you can get that in a life partner, somebody who's genuinely impressed with you and feels lucky to be with you, and both people feel exactly the same way, that's kind of the definition of a good relationship, you know? Not that I had it. The thing is, I had to learn this by experience by getting with Rachel finally. Prior to that, I didn't have any good relationships. Maybe my very first girlfriend. I was a good relationship, I guess, until I fucked it up, but but I've certainly never been in a relationship like this one before. Rachel and I spend all of our time with each other and never get sick of each other at all. We're just always on the same page about things. It's weird. Rachel's a little more fretful than I am about certain kinds of things. So one of the challenges for an NI-DOM is like she's constantly looking to externalities to try to tell her whether we have a good relationship, for example. Even though if she were SI or FI more conscious, she would be like, obviously, we have a perfect relationship. Obviously, Eric's not going to leave or anything like that. But that's an NI-DOM's corresponding deficit for their strength is that they have trouble referencing their own experience to understand themselves. You know, they're the least valuing of subjective epistemologies of all the types. The least valuing of both SI and FI, because SI's 8th is super unconscious, instrumental, and FI's 6th, not so unconscious, but countervalued. Like, my SI is instrumental, but it's conscious, and my FI is an absolute value. Which explains why, when I don't get what I want, I throw tantrums. I throw substantial tantrums when I don't get what I want. Or when I have to do something I don't want to do. The thing is, I don't want a whole lot very strongly. But when I do want something, I want it. I want it my way. I want it now. That's it. And when I don't like something, I don't like it. I don't want anything to do with it. Get it away from me. That's it. And when reality forces me to be more compromising than that, I throw a tantrum. Especially if I'm on mushrooms. But you know what? Since the time I came back from Oakland, that day I had mushroom tantrums. But since that day, that was the last time I've had any mushroom tantrums. I've done mushrooms plenty of times. Jock anime. Am I religious? Well, I'm a Christian. I self-identify as a Christian. I pray. But I understand faith-based behavior is a behavior, not as an affirmation. I understand it correctly as a behavior, not as an affirmation. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. It says that because something happened after something, it was caused by it. That's a post hoc fallacy. Like, today my alarm went off, and then the sun came out. Good thing my alarm went off, or it would have been dark for everybody. Yeah, that's a post hoc fallacy. If you're gonna tell somebody they're guilty of a fallacy, you should really explain what it is. I guess you didn't tell him he was guilty of post hoc. You were talking about post hoc in general. So I retract that statement. if you had accused him of a post hoc fallacy, I would consider you duty bound to explain it if he asks. No types are compatible when most people in the world are not healthy individuals, unfortunately. Well, you don't have to be perfectly healthy, you just have to be not toxic at all. You know? You have to be interested in, and you have to be not broken. But no. Look, SI's way of knowing isn't unhealthy, it's just SI's way of knowing. The fact that it's not consistent with your preferred epistemologies does not make it anything wrong with it. That's what's wrong with the world is that everybody keeps doing that. They keep projecting their values as norms that everybody else should aspire to, or it's like every ENTJ in the world says, it's just if people just put their mind to it, they could be strong like me and work constantly and never sleep. You get your dumbass manifester types making videos about how you just need to let go of the past. Just let it go entirely, and then you won't be burdened by it. Well, of course, that's fine if you're an ENFJ. It doesn't work for any SI type at all. We have to understand that each type has its corresponding strengths and weaknesses. Uh, Cameron is a saint and a lifesaver for his many skills and knowledge that his SITE brings to the party. Because my SI and TE are shitty. SI and TE are pretty critically important to being okay, though. It's like, when Cameron arrived, we fit down to our last bottle of water. We had, like, no food, So those things are pretty important. And, like, our lack of SI and TE showed very clearly when we moved in here without any of our stuff and had no dishes even. It was just like, oh God, we're so bad at this. ENFJs make me a little annoyed. I met this guy who was lying to himself and he thought he was so perfect and good and lawful. He took a few online tests. He got all the nice, lawful, good shit. Well, no, we're not all horrible. I'm lawful good. I'm absolutely lawful good. I believe in justice, laws. I I'm not perfect, I'm not Jesus, but I'm a fundamentally good person and try my best to do good in the world, speak truth, be kind to people. And when I'm not, I'm forthright and upfront about taking accountability about it, get out ahead of it, and call myself out before anybody else does. I'm a very good person. I'm not horrible at all. The thing about lawful good is it is the case that you can't actually be good while just looking to other people's laws and saying I will obey them. You have to distinguish between just and unjust laws and behave accordingly. You always got chaotic neutral. Well, you're young, right? I mean, when I was young, I had a less clear moral compass for sure. I want to be a horrible person in a simulated, wholly artificial environment, but a good person in a real environment. That seems fair. Anise, hello. Are you really a niece? Do you have an aunt or uncle? We all want to be horrible. We all want to do bad things. No, definitely not. Well, that's the thing. When you get to be my age, you've developed enough SI experience to recognize and distinguish between things that are bad, things that are self indulgent, things that are, you know, yeah, I don't always prioritize my health in terms of my habits and stuff. But there's nothing wicked about that. It may be unwise, but it's not wicked, and the distinction is critical. Well, that's definitely not true. You say your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed until 25. How would that correlate to cognitive functions? I don't think that really has anything to do with cognitive functions. I think it has to do with um, maturation, you know, biological maturation. And it, to the extent that you could link it to cognitive functions, you could say that certain types will express this underdeveloped cortex situation. They'll express it like this. Their poor decision making will look like this. This type's poor decision making will look like this. But other than that, I don't think you can. There's any linkage there. Some ESFJ is coming to me about her on-off relationship final breakup. She's ignoring all logical reasoning. How do I explain to her that it's her fault? You can't. She's NI-polar. Okay, if she's really an ESFJ, she's NI-polar, and they're it they're strangely like they don't get when things are determinate. You know, when one most relevant factor is determinate about a question, that's not something NI-polar people can get. They can't figure out what's a, a, what's important, like, you know, what matters a whole bunch and what doesn't matter very much. So it's like an ESTJ, they'll they'll prevent every possible thing from interfering with their plans they can think of without distinguishing between whether those things are likely to occur or not. My dad had so much insurance on everything, way more insurance than anybody should ever have. It made no economic sense. But, you know, it prevented substantial economic harms that might have happened, right? That that's a little bit more defensible than something like when Becky got mad because I was talking about it on the internet. Somehow she got a hold of my dad's email and emailed him and threatened to sue him because I was talking about it on the internet. Obviously, she had zero case at all, even conceivably, that she could sue him or me because everything I was saying on the internet about her was true. One. Two, she's Canadian. What court is she going to file this lawsuit in? She'd have to file it in an American court, and an American court would throw it out immediately because they don't have bullshit privacy laws like Canada does. You're not going to be able to explain it to her, though. You just have to, you know, you give her some bullshit like this. You know, everything happens for a reason. And you just got to figure out why this is happening. And then she'll make up some bullshit stuff, you know. I mean, that's good advice if you want to make her satisfied that she's got some directionality to move forward, because you're not going to get her to understand why. If she cheated or something, then that should be straightforward enough. Like, you cheated, therefore he left. Mr. Bobby, don't be a dick. Yeah, I agree with you, Jocker and Jocker Anime. I totally agree with you on that one. You didn't have to. You don't have to remove the retarded one. I use that word all the time. I agree that all that sociosexual hierarchy shit is complete bullshit. And like, the only people who believe in it are people who blame women for them not getting laid. The thing is, I used to definitely be, well, I mean, on some level I still am, somebody who was not at all a player or anything, certainly not an alpha male when it came to women. But I never blamed them for it. I always blamed myself for it. and and I always wanted to have women around because I enjoy their company. So I I didn't become a stupid member of the He-Man Haters Club, as they call MGTOW. That's what I call MGTOW. I think it's very ill-advised for anybody to engage in any kind of groupism, and that definitely is an example of it. Trying to the thing that happens with all that sociosexual hierarchy shit is it's a bunch of disaffected men trying to reduce women to creatures who are slaves to their biology, and that's why they can't get laid, because the women are slaves to going for the most high social status man or something like that. It's obviously nonsense. Now, Twitter would never come after anyone who unironically types all that is stupid. No, that's not modern wokeness hype mind, Mr. Robbie. He's correct. That sigma sociosexual hierarchy stuff is stupid. He's absolutely correct. It's incredibly dumb. It's like, it's the most like self-loathing form of groupism. Jock Anime, you do sound like an ENTP. I don't know if you are one or not. A lot of people who call themselves ENTPs, most of them have mistyped themselves. But you sure sound like one. He's a dick, Mr. Bobby. You don't want to mess with him. He's a young dick ENTP, probably. Well, I mean, being into identifying yourself as a certain label linking to your sexual effectiveness is at best a negative self-fulfilling prophecy, at worst a way to treat women badly. So yeah, it's pretty stupid, whether you see it that way or not. I don't mean to be insulting to you. I'm not as much of a dick as Jock Anime probably, but in this instance, it's absolutely correct that there's no solace to be found in some bullshit explanation about why you can't get laid or why those guys can or whatever. Because ultimately, it's always the same thing. It's one person and another person who come together and ideally love each other for who they specifically are. And it's this kind of trying to figure out the mechanics of sexual dynamics on a universal level is horribly misguided, wrong, empirically contraindicated, and across the board just garbage. Well, looks do matter. I'm not saying looks do matter. I'm not saying looks don't matter. I'm not saying various things don't matter. It's just that different people prioritize different things. So, you know, it, remember, you're not in a sexual economy, okay? I, ideally, you're trying to find your life partner, or you're trying to find your way, your way of being, you know? If you're somebody who wants to hump a lot of chicks, and you're humping chicks who are people who want to hump a lot of dudes, then all's well because everybody's on the same page, right? But what happens is males will feel cheated because it's easier for women to have sex than men to have sex. Most of the males who feel cheated don't want to be those guys who who uh, who fuck a lot of chicks. They want to be in a good, healthy, happy relationship. And yet, well, what are you walking away from? The possibility of a relationship with a woman? Why? Are you walking away from the possibility that that woman might actually love you for who you are because you don't believe yourself to be lovable? Yes. Well, I would not say progressivism is good. Liberalism, classical liberalism is good. We obviously need to respect the autonomy of every individual. That's our top priority. And respect the agency and individuality of every individual. That's our top priority. Groupism was a way of oppressing individuals and still, in some instances, is, right? But that doesn't mean that progressivism is good. Progressivism, unfortunately, in its current incarnation, uh, misconstrues inequality as a problem. You know, like the worst thing you could possibly do is have progressive taxation. Why? Well, because it produces a 14,000 page tax code and rich people don't pay any taxes. Because, of course, if you have progressive taxation, You've got to distinguish between who's for and who's not, right? You're trying to make it more fair but ultimately, it's like I inherited a fairly sizable estate, me and my daughter did, and we're going to pay nominal to zero taxes, inheritance taxes or anything. Why? Well, because my dad legally structured it as a trust, etc., and various things to make it so that we don't pay taxes on that money. That's progressive taxation for you. On the other hand, if you just had a fairly sizable federal sales tax, that would be actually progressive because the people who spend more money would pay more taxes. I like you, Jack man. I like you a lot. I'm not sure everybody else does, but I do. You amuse me. Fascism gets a bad rap, huh? Well, I mean, it's like They Might Be Giants says in that one song. The fascists have the outfits, but the communists have the music. I don't actually think the communists have good music at all, but I think it's a funny lyric. It makes me laugh with hilarity. Let's check out that cool closet. What cool closet? What was that? Oh, just icicle falling down or something. Falling down icicle. Look at your exciting ways. Well, you know what we could do? If you want to get some kind of a tour, I could take us up to the attic. We've never been there before. I mean, I have, but you haven't. Most people around here have seen the rest of the house already. But nobody here has been to the attic before. So maybe in a second I'll go take us up to the attic. Now that the electricity's back on, there's lights in there. So last time I went to the attic, the electricity was off. I had to use a flashlight. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Well, maybe the electricity was on and I just didn't turn on the light. That may be what happened. I think the electricity was on, but I just didn't turn on the light. Because I was in the habit of the electricity being off. I like it when I have electricity. These lights are on. See? They provide illumination here on this little walkway. I don't have to smoke in the dark. I don't have to idle my car for an hour to charge my phone. We've been idling this Mini Cooper just sitting here with a big pile of snow for multiple hours just to charge our phones. You have no electricity right now, Eric Moore? You must be watching this on your phone then, I guess. Which It's fitting because I'm making it on my phone. It's late, but I'm just not tired at all. I thought I was tired earlier. I tried to go to bed. I got back up. Trees over power lines in your neighborhood. It's 2:23 where you are. It's 12:23 where I am. So you're 2 hours east of me. Probably puts you like Missouri or something. Yeah. The thing is, I've been off Adderall now for such a long time. Um, that I'm in the post Adderall phase of not being able to sleep. Well, I'm not saying, Jimmy Blaze, that my liking electricity is particularly insightful. Maybe not the most noteworthy of my likes. Uh, but as I've already confessed, I've made a lot of shitty videos. This may be one of them. That last thing disappeared before I could read it. I'll read it when I go back inside. Then I'll go to the attic. What's your streaming schedule? I mean, I stream a lot normally, uh, but I haven't had electricity for a while, so that's why I haven't streamed for a while. Normally, I stream every day or every other day. This is a great video. You've been on point since you recovered from whatever you had. Um, cool. Thanks. You mean that sickness I had? I did get over that finally. It was like a few days ago. I was. Is that serious or a joke, Jacka? Anyway, because she doesn't like me at all. She's very anti-Eric. Hi there, Winston's mom. So, what have you learned from your first snowstorm, and how's Rachel? Howdy, everybody. Well, it's not my first snowstorm, but okay, I understand what we're talking about. It is my it. Everybody is saying it's historic. Like it's the most snow that they've ever gotten here. We move in a month ago, and a month after we move in, they get the most snow they've ever had in history. So it's it's pretty. It's been trying at times to be to have both no physical mobility and also no intellectual mobility. Like I couldn't, we can't leave the house because we can't even conceive of getting our car out of the driveway. And um, then for a long time I had no power, so I couldn't even go on the internet. How many times have I said the last few days to Rachel, well, if I had the internet, I'd look it up. Like, we've had many, many conversations where I want to know something, but I just can't look it up. Well, you know what, says Mom, we're going to take your advice and get married here at the house. We've talked about it. Well, the generator that came with the house was broken, blown out. Yesterday, I had enough. I said, enough is enough. And I called Delilah and I called Cameron. And I had Delilah send Cameron the money to buy a generator and to also buy it. He got a used snowblower for a good deal, a gasoline powered snowblower. And he arrived up here today. Then we used the snowblower and the snow shovel to make him a parking space because the snowplow has got our 2-lane road down to just 1 lane right now, and big snowbanks on either side. And so, no, I didn't look at. Well, I mean, I've talked about it a couple of times with on a couple of streams and gotten feedback from several people, and I've talked to a couple people around here as well and gotten feedback about it. But it's all been negative feedback. The internet I have is actually pretty damn good considering it's just DSL. It's nothing like the giggle fiber I used to have. But the other thing is, Sierra Tel has run fiber optic cables out here. They just haven't connected them to the houses yet. Within a year or so, I'm going to be able to get the same internet I had in LA. So, and that internet was lightning fast. Giggle fiber that I had in LA is just, I could upload massive videos in like 5 minutes. It was crazy. What if it's all a con and SpaceX never actually went to space? Well, then I guess you shouldn't invest in SpaceX. After all, it's all just a con. I mean, they definitely shoot stuff up into the sky. Why do you think they're unable to make it into outer space? Okay. So here's how you get into the attic. You gotta pull this string down. Oops. You gotta pull this string down. And then you gotta pull this ladder down like this. Until it goes all the way to the floor. Now you can climb up the ladder. And you turn on the light. So there's this spooky like hanging rope in here. It's clearly to hang somebody, it seems like, but I don't know. And then there's all these various boxes up here with the person before the last people's stuff. So the first owner's stuff. Here's a target to shoot at. Here's an El Camino College notebook. Look at this. It says protocol number 9. Ability to communicate for the purposes of subordinate personnel. Number 10, schedule and assign working tasks to subordinates. Number 11, responsibility, assign tasks to tech. What a TE page of TE stuff. Now, one thing that is back here, let's see if I can find it. Where is it? Check this out. It's a Commodore Amiga. This has to be from the 80s. Oh, it's like totally in the box, all packaged up and everything too. Like, it looks like it was never unpacked. And it's got this old computer monitor, it probably could go to that. Oh. My phone was telling me to rotate device. Huh. Go back to there. There. Let's see what else we have here. Look how old this cell phone is. That's a really old cell phone. It's before smartphones. Does this really have a sound from it? No, it doesn't. Does this really have a two-way 5-channel 49 megahertz FM transceiver in it? I don't even know what that is. So here's a painting that somebody painted. Here's a bunch of wire. Not very interesting. And what else is worth showing you up here? Here's a couple of vacuum cleaners. Let's see. A lot of electronic stuff. Like antiquated computer equipment and stuff. bunch of old paperwork. A box containing all the manuals for all this stuff. Ah, these are kind of interesting. Too tall for up here. Okay. There's this. This is cool. I could use this. It's got, obviously, it's got RCA outputs. So that's not really very useful. Why would you even make a mixer ever with RCA outputs? Here's something fun. I want to make this go. It's songs, rhymes, and phrases #1 for the Hero Jr. RT1 Robotypes. I think you put it inside of a robot or something. It also has Math Master. Blackjack, Tic-Tac-Toe, and Animals. Ooh, I really want to know what this is all about. Special occasions. What is that about? Special occasions. Oh, this one. AC/DC Mind Reader. AC/DC Mind Reader. Well, if you want the more horror-looking view, this rope is very much reminiscent of a hanging rope. Anyway, I want to know what I want to put these things in something and make it go, you know. Here's a hat, I guess. I'm not sure what this is. A pouch of some kind? Oh, it's a cod piece. I think this cod piece might be a little big for me. What else is in here that's fun? Finger paint pad. Let's see. Yeah. Kind of a weird kind of paper. It's glossy. I guess that's what you need for finger painting. What's this? Best wishes at this holiday time. Just what I needed. I was desperately in need of some well-wishing. Whoa. Okay. Time to leave the attic. Well, maybe I'll show you guys this first. are very so difficult. Here's a picture somebody made. Let's see. What's a picture of, you might say? I don't know, but it's terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. Ow. This is why tallness is not always an advantage. Times like this, it causes you to bang your head on things. This dumb painting, just trash. But I don't want to deal with it right now. So just stay there for now. Okay. Now, here's something I don't obey. This here instructs me that I am to face the ladder when climbing up and down. But I don't face the ladder when I'm climbing down. I go this way. It feels safer to me to go that way, even if the sign says not to do that. Am I being too reckless? Maybe, but you know, I do not concede any of my agency to signs. Just because a sign says something does not mean I'm going to obey it. I might obey it, but not just because a sign says something. Here's this thing. Oh, what does it do? It goes like this. And then, if you push it like this, sometimes you can get it to go back in. There. Pretty good. That wasn't so bad. Oh, I have to put the ladder back up. So to put the ladder back up, you have to lift up this part and fold it like this. And then you just push this. Oh, Eric, you forgot to turn off the light. I have to go back up the ladder now to turn off the light. But fortunately, I don't have to go very far because the light switch is right there. Okay, so then you fold this in like I was saying, like that. And then you push this up like that. And it closes all by itself. That noise goes hard. Yeah, Rachel and Cameron are sleeping, but they're both sleeping upstairs, not in the same room, obviously, but upstairs because Rachel and I sleep better when we don't sleep together. We start the night off together in bed, which we did tonight too, but I couldn't sleep. I got up and then she went upstairs. But, well, I tell you, when the electricity was off and we had no central heating, we have two propane heaters like this. One of them downstairs and one of them upstairs. But we didn't even have to put the upstairs one on It was toasty warm with just this downstairs one and the day room above this room. But in the master bedroom over there, without electricity, it gets pretty chilly because the propane heater doesn't reach all the way over there. Because heat rises, you know. What we ate was pasta and rice and cans of soup. And, or like today we had a can of chili. We had one can of chili. Which I put a bunch of Cheez-Its into. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hi, CJ O'Connell. Hi, Eric Moore. Unfortunately, no, there's no painting of a naked Kate Winslet. There's huge potential for the attic to be used in a rap music video. I'm rapping about attics, and here's some stuff. Look out here, that's some stuff. Watch out for the cursed amulets. Okay, I will. I'll keep an eye out for any cursed or other amulets that I may encounter. But you know what was the coolest thing that we found in the attic, in my opinion, are these two little German glass coffee mugs. Hi, Lauren Cuthbert. Because, you know, the thing is, normally you can't pour hot liquids into glass things, right? Or they'll break, they'll shatter. But, of course, Germany, you know, the Germans, they like to say, you say we can't do that, we can do that. And I'll show you these cool little glass mugs. Well, I'll show you one of them anyway. It's not very clean, really, but it's this thin glass mug that totally you can pour coffee into. We got two of them, and Rachel and I have been drinking coffee out of these things ever since we found them. They're our preferred coffee cups now. It's nice to have a small cup of coffee too, because then you can have a second cup of coffee and not get too caffeined out, you know. Because caffeine makes me at least feel kind of like jittery and nauseous if I have too much of it, you know. Speaking of things that make me nauseous, so I took a small dosage of mushrooms this morning. The last time before today that I took mushrooms was like 4 days before that or something. So it worked pretty well. We just make regular coffee. I like my coffee to be regular coffee with a lot of powdered creamer in it. I specifically prefer powdered creamer, but a lot of it over any other kind of creamer, like liquid milk or almond milk or any of those things. You have anxiety and your doctor said that coffee is a killer for that? Did stop drinking coffee actually help your anxiety at all? They do feel posh or exotic somehow. They're such dainty little mugs, and yet they hold up to hot liquids just fine. Yeah, I'm really fond of those. I also found this other cool cup that I'll get it and show you. Well, I only found one of these cups, but this goes in here for some reason. Like, I'm not sure why they would have made it like this. This metal part and this glass part. But I like it. I currently put my BBs for my BB gun in here. And this is my BB gun that I have. It has CO2 cartridges that shoot out the BBs. I also have a rifle, but an actual rifle, but I have yet to unpack it. It's still all wrapped up in the garage. I have a lot of bullets too. So one of these days, Cameron and I are going to shoot at things. Why am I frozen? Oh, those glass coffee mugs with steel holders are a mid-century design. Did YouTube just like shut me down because I talked about having a rifle or something? Because I don't see anything going on here. I appear to be frozen. How's that? Oh, now I'm not frozen. Lauren Cuthbert said, interesting. Keeps it warm? Use your TE. Mrs. Mom actually used her TE and did a quick Google search. And turns out those glass coffee mugs with steel holders are a mid-century design. So I'm not sure what happened there with the freeze thing, but it's gone now. So my computer is saying red triangle with 3 white snowflakes in it. Winter storm. But I'm going to check the full forecast, and hopefully it's still saying we're getting rain tomorrow rather than snow. Yeah, it's still saying it's showing rain. We're looking at a low today of tonight of 38. That's a high. Well, I think what you used was, I don't know. I'm not sure. Just the impact that political narratives can be used to control the population for various reasons. For example, CJ McConnell. Well, I mean, every political narrative is always used to control the population in one way or the other, or at least to dictate the standards by which the population operates. That's what politics is. Winston's mom has some Columbo in her. If she had Columbo in her, she'd say one more thing. And ask another question before she walked out of the perp's room. Boy, perps just got increasingly frustrated with Columbo over the course of every episode. At first, they thought, I'm going to fool this guy, no problem. And then Columbo would always get the best of them, though, because he was such a good detective. Yeah, Storm winter storm, it says, but, well, like 22 hours ago, it says the Sierra is about to get slammed again. Powder forecast. The thing is, we're probably not going to get powder here this time because it's a warmer storm, and since it's supposed to actually precipitate during the day, we'll probably get rain. And I'm very much hoping to get a lot of rain because that would help wash away all this snow. The endless parade of deep storms continues for the West with several options to ride deep snow in the next 5 days. The Sierras get clobbered late this weekend, with the Rockies seeing decent amounts in the northern and central regions. The snow continues, albeit lighter intensity, into the middle of next week. So they're saying, like, see that, like, if we lived in Mammoth, which is basically exactly north south the same uh, longitude or latitude, which is the ones that go long ways, they go around rather than up and down. Anyway, if you if we lived on the other side of the Sierras, we would really be super buried in snow because Mammoth is much higher elevation. Like, Mammoth Lake's town is 8,000 feet, and the top of Mammoth Mountain is 11,000 some feet. Steven Spielberg, in his latest Colbert interview, essentially said he likely believes it could be us from the future coming back before a monumental event where only a percentage of people survive. What could be that? Yeah, he would be like a badass guest. Oh, well, that's an interesting speculative notion. I wouldn't call it anything more robust than that, but UFOs are a small amount of people from the future coming back. Interesting notion. This is about 2 hours long, and we're down to 4 people watching, apparently. Just 4. Let me refresh this. People would escape to the past if they had time travel uh, in the event of some sort of catastrophe. Makes some kind of intuitive sense. But the problem with the idea of time travel in general is, why, if time travel ever exists into the future, then it should have already revealed itself multiple times in the past. If the capacity to travel back in time is conceivably possible, then at some point in the future it will have been accomplished, and we should see evidence of it regularly from the beginning of human existence till now. You see UFOs everywhere, every day. You have trouble identifying winged insects. Well, yeah. The thing is, I think identifying it as a winged insect qualifies as identifying it. I don't think it has to be that specific. Like, to know something's a plane, I don't have to know what kind of plane it is. That was rude, Eric. That was very rude. I mean, the thing is, it seems like if it existed at all, especially travel back and forth, that there'd be this blending of times that would have already happened. The idea that somehow time travel to the past is occurring now but didn't occur before, or that time travel may be happening but the time travelers are all just being very strictly adhering to some rules about time travel. Neither of those things like hold up to any kind of scrutiny. I don't think time travel is possible either, because you obviously can't travel forward in time because the future hasn't happened yet. You might be able to travel back in time, but you'd have to rewind all of time itself. Everybody else would have to go back in time with you. And huh. Listen, Eric Moore, the purpose of UFOs is to be aliens. Okay? So, what you need to do is when you see an insect that you don't know what it is, say, that could be an alien spaceship. Then maybe it's a UFO. It seems that all UFO sightings in the 70s were probably just Ted Kennedy's head. Ah, Ted Kennedy. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. Uh, I'm going to watch a little bit of TV, and then I'm going to take a shower, and then I'm going to uh, try to go to bed. I need to take a shower because I worked up quite a sweat when I was shoveling snow earlier. But when I tried to go to bed, I didn't feel like taking a shower before I got into bed. But then I felt sticky in bed. Probably had something to do with why I was having trouble going to sleep. Okay, well, yeah, it's a tiny microscopic alien spaceship, but it's got tiny microscopic nuclear bombs on it. So that's why you have to be careful. All right, good night, everybody. I love you all. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese, and I'll see you tomorrow.